issued in disclosure. I think first two are very interconnected with each other, but the third one is more importantly, both from the chartered accountant perspective who are certifying to perform 3CB as well as the disclosure from the company's perspective. The first two clearly are very important because any transfer pricing, when you look at it, what is the pricing? Pricing is an inexact science. And when you look at the pricing, the economics plays a very important role in it. And therefore, what we talk about in a technical jargon, as what they call about the FAR analysis, that is function, assets and risk analysis. I think that's a technical jargon. Pricing is never a rocket science. It depends on businessman to decide why he is taking a decision in terms of his pricing, keeping in consideration three important aspects. One, functions what he is being performing when he is dealing with the related party. And here I will talk mainly about the dealing with the related parties first, because first you need to understand where you are and what are your related parties. Second, the assets which are involved, and here assets involved doesn't mean only the tangible assets. It involves the intangible assets like technical know-how, brand, trademark, customer base, supplier base, etc. And the third, which is obviously most important, because economic principle says if you are taking more risk, possibility of the more profits or possibility of the significant losses are very much there. And therefore it's the risk what you take in the business. That's all put three together, what they call it as the function, assets and the risk analysis, or the FAR. Now if you simplify that from a business perspective, what is function? Function is nothing but the various business activities what you carry out. If you are a manufacturing company, right from your setting up of the plant up to the after sales service, everything is nothing but a function. These are different activities like setting up the plant or the purchasing, manufacturing, pre-marketing, marketing, collection, after sales and all that. That is considered as a function. Obviously any business needs an asset. It could be tangible, it could be intangible. I think my previous speaker was mentioning about some of the even the intangible or fungible assets like employees. Yes, employees these days have become very, very important asset. They don't form part of your financial statements at all. But those are the assets. And the risk. There could be a number of risks which any business would be carrying on. So, what is the pricing, what it talks about? Why this FAR is very, very critical? Is because the pricing depends on if you are doing more functions in a particular transaction, if you are deploying more assets. And here when I say assets, I don't mean by the routine assets like your plant and machinery or building. It's more in form of an intangible assets or the non-routine assets which are going to generate to the more profits. And the third, which is very important function, is in terms of the risk. So all three put together is nothing but economic functions. So in a transfer pricing analysis, when you want to do a FAR, what you need to look at first is who is performing between the two related parties economically significant functions. And if a party A is performing economically significant function, at the end of the day it is expected. It never materializes always in real life, but it is expected that they should earn a better profit or they should earn a better price, because they are contributing economically significant functions which include functions, assets and the rest. So understanding where you are in an intercompany transaction for the specified domestic transaction. Take example that one company manufactures and sells it to its related party, and another company takes part of it as part of the distribution and the after sale. Now a transaction or a whole value chain is divided into two parts, which is manufacturing and the distribution. Now who should earn more money? It all depends on what is economic significant functions which are being carried out, and that's very, very critical from the comparability perspective. Because unless and until you know where you are, how can you do a comparison? And I'll give a very simple example every time for a comparison. What is a comparison? They say in English apple to apple comparison. So a red apple can be compared with a green apple, certainly yes, both are apples. But two citrus fruits like a lemon and a sweet lime, can you compare? They are citrus fruits. You cannot. Another example for the comparability is doctors. Everybody has learned the medicine, but can a cardiologist be compared with the oncologist? The answer is clearly no. So what you need to understand first who you are before you start doing your comparison, and therefore function, the assets and the risk analysis. First you need to perform for yourself as a company, and then you need to look at for something else for your comparability perspective. And And when you do a comparison, it has to be an apple to apple or a very similar comparison. Vehicles are vehicle. Maruti 800 cannot be compared with the Audi. Or Toyota Altis cannot be compared with the Porsche. Both do the same function. They carry the passenger. But can you do that? You can't. So importance is that when you do any SDD, doing FAR analysis for yourself is very, very critical. That's the heart of any transfer pricing. Please remember. Because a computer concept which says garbage in, garbage out. If you do your FAR analysis incorrect, the answer is going to be incorrect. And therefore, you need to spend more and more time in doing the functional analysis, which is your function, assets and the risk analysis. And why? That's another question. Why you need to do it? As I stated slightly while ago, a price or a profit or the compensation or the return on what you do, whether you do a manufacturing or whether you are providing a service, it's a combination of what kind of activities are you performing, what kind of assets are you deploying, and what kind of risk are you taking. Without that, how will you determine the price? It's a hypothesis. Whether it will happen every time, I do not know. Because I may say I am doing all the functions, I am deploying the maximum assets, and I am taking all the risk. Then there is no reason why you need to deal with the related parties for the same transaction. You do carry out on your own. So considering this, the function, assets and the risk analysis clearly impacts the price for the goods or the service, as well as it is going to impact your profit or the loss. So unless and until you do your FAR analysis very clearly, the arm's length price, what they call it as arm's length price, will not be correct. Because you need to compare your arm's length price with the comparable price of the comparable company, or your arm's length profit with your within internal or outside, which is a comparable company's third parties. So unless and until, again I say, if you don't do your FAR analysis very well, you have a problem. And for that, what you need to do, first you need to understand who you are. Because in a transfer pricing, when you prepare your documentation report, you need to sell your own story to the tax department that who you are and why are you saying you are like this. So moving to this, there are certain simple examples we can take. Examples like functions performed, what I was saying. Now look at the R&D function. An example can be entity A is carrying out the R&D, but it is being funded by the entity B for carrying out the R&D. Now who is doing economically significant function? Is it a party which is doing the R&D or is it a party which is funding the R&D? Because at the end of the day, once the funding is done, he expects some results out of it. He takes a risk. The R&D could be fruitful or R&D can be disaster. Doesn't matter to him. So economically significant function in this case does not mean who is performing the job. But economically significant function in this example means who is funding and taking the risk. That is where, and therefore entity B is performing an economically significant function. In this case, as a result, it is expected that it should get better return back than the entity A, because entity A is performing the work or doing the service which he or she has been told what needs to be done. So he or she will get compensated accordingly. Take another example, manufacturing versus a processing. Now if you are in a casting business, you need to have a significant investment into a plant and machinery. You need to have a significant consumption of the power. Vis-a-vis, if you are having a plastic molding injection machine and you are doing the work of the processing. Now which is more economically significant? Is it a manufacturing process or is it the normal processing of the job what you are doing? Now here again, economically significant function is performed by the manufacturing of a casting company rather than the processing of the plastic injection molding. Why I am saying so? These are very important. Unless and until you know who is performing the economically significant function, your FAR analysis will go wrong. Let's take few more examples about the risk. As I said, I never took an example of the asset because if you want to do a business, you need to have an asset. When I look at the international type of transaction for the transfer pricing, a subsidiary company is being set up by the foreign national. Say for example, in business process outsourcing or in an ITES company, they need infrastructure, they need building, they need plant and machinery, they need computers, they need routers, they need connectivity. Can this stop when they are outsourcing the work to India? The answer is no. So non-routine assets would play a major role, but not the routine assets. Any business you need to have that asset, but the functions and the risk will certainly change. Now when you look at the assumption of the risk, the marketing risk, an Indian company has a subsidiary which is doing the marketing of their products, and it says that if you don't get the enough orders, first you need to incur your expenditure on the advertisement and the sales promotion. But if you don't get the adequate business, then you will end up in a loss because of your significant market promotion expenses. I will reimburse you that entire cost. Now here again, who is taking the marketing risk? Is it the entity A which is doing the marketing, or is it the entity B which is giving an assurance that if you don't make enough profits, I will reimburse you that expense? Again, the risk is taken by the entity B and not by the entity A, because entity A is a risk insulated entity. If I don't make adequate profits, I am going to get my money back. Next could be inventory. Entity A processes the manufactures the goods. It purchases the goods from the related party, but it doesn't pay to the related party. The selling price gets adjusted when the goods are shipped to the other related party. Now, who is taking the inventory risk? Is it the entity A which is manufacturing and selling the goods to the related party, or is it the entity B which is paying him net of that? If the question is answer is the entity B, because entity A, even if the goods are not dispatched, he doesn't have to worry because he has not paid for the purchases. It's the entity B which is taking the maximum risk. A third product liability, very simple. So if I am manufacturing my own products, I am bound to give you the product liability, but there are certain situations where distributors are responsible for the warranty. For product liability warranty, distributors are responsible. Many times in a related party transaction I have seen is that because the price at which the goods are sold by one related party to another related party is adjusted for the estimated product warranty expenses. Now then in this case, who is taking the risk? It is a distributor who is dealing with the goods is taking the risk. So understand these are some of the important risks which a business takes. They are effectively to get the better results in the form of compensation of the profit. So the function asset of the risk analysis is very, very critical, and which you will come to know why I am saying so in the later slides. So this is very relevant when you are doing any transfer pricing, be international transaction or be it a related party transaction. Here are some of the examples. More functions vis-a-vis the lesser functions. When you look at the full-fledged manufacturer, it means he has including technology, everything. He is doing more functions. But when you compare that to the licensed manufacturer, it means somebody has given me a technical know-how fee and for which I am paying the royalty. Now, the licensed manufacturer is performing lesser functions compared to a full-fledged manufacturer. Obviously, the expected returns for licensed manufacturer would be less compared to the full-fledged manufacturer. Then if you take example of contract manufacturing versus the toll manufacturing, the toll manufacturer performs only the service and therefore is not expected to get the better result. I think anybody from the pharma industry or the FMCG industry here, they will understand what I am saying very well. Colgate-Palmolive markets the toothpaste, while the toothpaste is manufactured by its own licensing, it is not manufactured by him. So, the loan licensee becomes a contract manufacturer while the Colgate-Palmolive becomes a full-fledged manufacturer. Because it has only outsourced its work of manufacturing by giving the technology to the contract manufacturer. Toll manufacturer don't take responsibility of any goods. It just render the service and sends the goods back. So, depending upon what kind of functions you are performing, what kind of assets which you are deploying, and what kind of the risk which you are into, that will determine what kind of remuneration you should receive as a part of arm's length principles. Very, very important. Because I pay 200 rupees or 500 rupees only to a general practitioner doctor, while when I go to a specialist, I pay him 5,000 rupees per visit. Why do I do that? Both are doctors. Because both are having different skill sets. And that is their asset what they have. That's the reason I do it. That is a simple example. I think we need to always keep it in mind. For a normal lawyer, I pay him 5,000 rupees per appearance, but when I appoint Harish Salve, I don't know how much he must be charging. So both are lawyers. Because they have some uniqueness in the form of their intangible of an asset. That's the reason they get paid. So this is in a transfer pricing analysis, this is very, very critical to understand where you are and what you are. Without that, you can't compare yourself very well. Now, function, assets and risk analysis, let's look at from two different perspectives. A manufacturing company, what it could be the reward. There are three different manufacturers, what they say. A toll manufacturer, a contract manufacturer, and a full-fledged manufacturer. Now, obviously, it is expected toll manufacturer cannot get the better rate because he doesn't have to invest into plant and machinery. He has to invest into only the employees. Rest all material is being given to him by his customer. He processes the material and sells it back. Why he should get a better profit as a full-fledged manufacturer? A contract manufacturer may be a shade ahead because he invests into a plant and machinery. He should get the better. Or if you are a full-fledged manufacturer, obviously you are expected to get better. So if your client or your company is into a contract manufacturing, then the comparable company what you need to select should be of a contract manufacturer and not of a full-fledged manufacturer. Otherwise the comparability will change. It will go for a complete 6. Today the match is going on obviously between India and Australia. The next is distributor. Now we easily say distributor, he is a trader or he is a distributor. However, there are a number of differences between a distributor or a trader, what they call. Somebody is just a commission agent. He doesn't take any liability or the risk or the ownership of the goods. He introduces to willing buyer and to seller and gets his commission. And that's the reason they get a commission of 0.5% or 1%, not more than that, of transaction value. Because their entire value chain, their activities are very, very limited and therefore they are not expected to earn better. While there are certain parties who instantly buy and make a sale. They don't invest into the inventory. They don't have to worry about their data because they are cash. They work on the cash. Again, they are not expected to get a better return. But if I am a full-fledged distributor, what I do is I buy, I keep it in inventory, I need to market, I need to provide the after-sales service, I need to go after collection, all the entire gamut of the distribution function which I am doing, then I am expected that I should get the better results. And this is very important because there are certain Indian groups who manufactures and sells it to their related party and then the related party distributes in the marketplace. So where you are, what you are, accordingly the rate, risk or the return will come back to you. This is very important as far as the function, assets and the risk analysis is concerned. Because unless you don't profile yourself very well in terms of the FAR analysis, the answer time and again I will say, the answer of your arm's length price and comparing your arm's length price with the tested party price will be completely wrong. Completely wrong. So the first and foremost principle of the transfer pricing is the function, assets and the risk analysis. Having understood where you are, now you need to do the comparability analysis. And how you can do a comparability analysis? You can do a comparability analysis internally or you can do the comparability analysis externally. My experience of SDB dealing with all my clients, more than 90% of the clients I can find the internal comparables. Rarely there is a transaction where there is, I cannot find internal comparison, I need to look at for the third party comparison. So from an SDB perspective, very, very critical, please see to it whether you have an internal comparability available or not. More often than not, you sell the goods to your related party as well as you sell the goods to your unrelated party. In many cases, it is by and large the same, there is no difference coming in. Then you have an internal comparability available. So first, my humble view, if you are exposed to the SDB, comparability from the internal perspective first try and see. If it is not there, then only you go for the third party comparison. And why I am saying so? Internal, you have better control your information, your details, your analysis than when you need to do a comparison with the third party where your analysis is restricted to the financial statements. So you look at the director's report, you look at their notes to accounts, you look at their balance sheet and do a financial analysis. Which is not really an economic analysis what you can do. But from an SDB perspective, if internal is available, please focus on the internal comparability first. And obviously that internal comparability you can do again doing your function, asset and the risk analysis. And if there are certain adjustments which are required to be made, you need to make those an adjustment to the price. Or you may have to make an adjustment to the profit of a segment between related party segment and unrelated party segment. And yes, such adjustment will always be there. When I am dealing with the third parties, I am doing the end-to-end in a value chain. While when I am dealing with my related party, I am manufacturing and selling it to him. So my job in a whole value chain is restricted only to the extent of the manufacturing, while post-manufacturing, which is sale and after sale, is taken care by my related party. Now in both these situations, related party and unrelated party, can you make the same amount of profit? Are you expected to make? Answer is no. You are not expected to make the same profit, and therefore what you may have to do is make an adjustment for the selling, distribution and the marketing expenses, maybe even in the form of your inventory, in the form of your credit period. Because in a related party, you are giving him 30 days credit when you are making a sale, while in an unrelated party, you are giving him a 90 days credit. Good is the same, but 60 days extra credit which has been given, there is an implicit cost of the interest which is sitting in over there. Because there are no free lunches in this world. More and more credit you offer, the more and more the price will go up. So make those adjustments. So once you do the FR analysis, you will understand what kind of comparability I need to do and what kind of adjustments do I need to make. Those adjustments are allowed under the regulation. I can give you an example. If you are a manufacturing company and in one particular year for 2 months there was a strike and there was a lockout, and as a result of the strike,